Good stuff there. Appreciate everybody in the chat this morning. Let's talk Bengals, John, and we're going to start with Joe Burrow. There's a lot of people in the chat talking about Joe right now. Before I get into the game, how good is Joe Burrow to you? You mentioned it at the top of the show. We got a bigger audience now. Joe is top of the top, in my opinion. You
Yeah,
agree?
he's in the elite category. He's one of the few. Patrick would be in that category. Obviously, Joe, Lamar, Josh Allen, I would put in that category. And I'm trying to think if there's anybody else.
Those are my four. I mean, when you talk about the top category, those are my four. I guess you could
Yeah,
argue maybe like a CJ Stroud's emerging, but he's not there yet.
yeah, I haven't seen
Yeah,
enough from him yet.
agreed.
I'm looking down the list right now. Aaron, would have been in that category, but obviously has fallen off age and such. I thought he had one more in him, but evidently that's not going to happen. Jordan Love is the one I think is closest to it. Freaking Green Bay. I swear to God,
Interesting.
they are the most spoiled fan base in the history of the world, by the way.
Well, give them credit. Their organization does a good job.
Yeah, they do. And Jared Goff's playing great this season, but I don't put him in that category.
You know, I think he needs too much to around him
No,
to
yeah,
be in
he
there.
needs same thing with Brock Purdy.
Right.
Those guys too much. Yeah, those are the four. I would say to me, those are the four truly, truly elite quarterbacks. And Jane Daniels, I think, has the potential to get there, but that's way too early. And Jordan Love, I think, is the closest to being there. If he can clean up some of the recklessness, he's going to be really good. He's already really good, but I think Jordan Love's going to be special. And then, you know, I think Jaden Daniels is ahead of Caleb Williams. Caleb's doing some nice things, but I think if you look at the film, there's a lot of mistakes as well. I don't put him in the same category. Yeah, those are the four guys to me right now, and you can pick any of the four. And I wouldn't argue if you want. You can make an argument for all four. And obviously, Patrick is going to win most because he's got the championships. But I think those four are head and shoulders above most other quarterbacks.
All right, let's get into the game now, Johnny Mack. You talk about an elite quarterback like that. It changes the way you approach a game. We'll start with the Eagles' defense. That pass rush, John, they're going to have to show up, man. Get Joe Burrow off his spot. Eagles defensively in this game, John. What's the approach, and what do you expect to see from Vic Fangio and the players on defense out
Yeah, I
there?
really think that is the approach. I mean, they have a poor offensive line, and that's how you beat the Cincinnati Bengals. It ain't going to be the coverage week. I can tell you that. If he's got time, if he's clean, you guys are going to be upset. And I think, Cooper DeJean is playing great. Quinyon Mitchell, so much optimism with the young players in that secondary. CJ's playing better. Reed's just been rock solid. Slay. It's not that the Eagles are bad, but yeah, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are great. Yosibas, as I said, is making some plays. Mike Gesicki has never lived up to the hype coming out of Penn State, but he's very athletic still, and he can do some things. Not the best blocker in the world. So they do it kind of two ways with Drew Sample, but yeah, get to the quarterback. Get to the quarterback. And it's going to be interesting to see how Vic does that. Is it going to be more of a blitzing type thing? Because you can handle it both ways. You can say, well, I should be able to get home with 4. And then you put as many people in coverage. That's what he wants to do. That's what everybody wants to do. But can you do it? And if you can't do it, like I expect him to go into the game with that mentality. We should be able to get home with 4. But if it's not working, is he going to shift quickly enough to be a little bit more aggressive? Because I think the key is to speed Joe Burrow up. Because if you don't, you're not going to win the game.
Yeah, Joe Burrow is playing really good football right now. We mentioned his stats earlier. He's got 14 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and an 110 passer rating. Good for second in the NFL. A couple other stats here, like advanced stats, I guess you could call them. He's fourth in the NFL with 78.9% of his passes on target, and he has just 3 turnover-worthy plays and 256 dropbacks. So he is playing really good football, doing a lot of good things with the ball, obviously. And John pointed out the weapons. Their weapons are arguably as good as the Eagles. You can't say that often when the Eagles go up against a team that their weapons are comparable to the Eagles. The wide receiver group certainly is comparable to the Eagles wide receiver group. Now, I think we have the big advantage at running back. But anyway, it's going to be a tough matchup versus Joe Burrow. John, how do you see it playing out in the secondary, taking away those wideouts? It's going to be a tough day for the secondary. They'll probably still sit in zone most of the time, but does that give you any concerns that Joe Burrow will just slice and dice his way
Yeah,
down
this
the
might,
field?
if you're not playing well, this could be one of those games where people hate, where the completion percentage is up in the 80s. As you just mentioned, he's very accurate. The Eagles are going to play a lot of zone. They always play a lot of zone. So this could be one of those games if the pass rush doesn't get home. And even if it does, I mean, I can't against this scheme. I'm chalking up 70 as the completion percentage. That's the baseline.
Yeah, literally.
I mean, what is his completion percentage? I don't even know, but it's probably close to 70 anyway.
Yeah, I think it's like
Um,
66 or 67. I'll look it up for us.
um, yeah. I mean, I'm starting at 70, and hopefully it doesn't get to 80.
Wow, 70 right now. He's got
Yeah.
1,759 yards already, John.
Yeah, I mean, now I might have to start it at 75. All right, I'm gonna
Yeah,
start.
he's throwing 70.4% completion percentage
I'm
this
I'm
season
gonna
right
start
now.
the baseline at 75, and hopefully it doesn't get to 85.
Oh my lord. Who's in the chat telling me that Joe Burrow is not elite? Come on, everybody.
Yeah, come on. I mean, everything doesn't have to be. The other team has good players. It doesn't. Come on.
Yeah, but
I mean, if
Joe is
you're arguing
Joe is
Joe
a
Burrow's,
rarefied air type of quarterback. I mean,
if
he's
you're arguing Joe Burrow isn't a good quarterback, I mean, come on. What are you doing? I mean, that's just blind fandom at that point because he happens to be playing your favorite team on a particular week. It's not going to hurt you to admit the other team has some good players. Trust me, it's not going to matter to the end game or who's going to win the game. He's really good. There's nothing wrong with stating the obvious.
No doubt about that. We'll see what they end up doing, how they end up covering those receivers. I think it simply boils down to the defensive line, John. We talked about it. I mean, if you don't get after Joe Burrow, he's going to sit there and slice and dice you. If you get after him and get him off his spot a little bit, you're going to make his life a little tougher. It'll be interesting to see how the Eagles approach him on D. I think the blitz rate against Joe Burrow right now is third lowest in the NFL. So I don't
Yeah,
expect
people
Vic to
people
bring
don't
the
want
house.
that smoke to talk about the Street Profits, my wrestling reference. They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not the guy you want to, especially with those receivers. And that's another part of, every week it's run pass ratio and is Vic going to blitz? Well, usually no. Vic's not going to blitz. 20% is where he's at right now. Bottom 10 of the league, right where he usually is. 21, 22%, a little bit lower.
I would expect that number to be down this week versus Joe Burrow.
It's all about situations too. I mean, if it's 3rd and 15, yeah, he might bring it to get the football out of his hands and then rally up and tackle. But even that, you got to be careful with this team because they can beat you down the field as well. So, um, Yeah, this I said about there's so many games where I've said early this season because of the circumstance, I don't know how much you can take from it. Green Bay with the field, um, Tampa Bay with the Eagles injuries, and then the Giants last week. Because of the Giants last week, I don't know how much you can take from it. Um, this is a game I think you'll be able to take something from, whether it's good or bad. I believe it will be meaningful. Um, what happens in this game? Uh, both teams are healthy enough. Both teams have enough of their um, big time players on the field. Um, yeah, Eagles don't have Mailata. They're probably not going to. They might have Orlando Brown. I think he was limited yesterday, but um, Goddard. Everybody's got little injuries. That's just part of the NFL. But I think there's enough from both sides to where you can say, all right, you can take something out of this game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. John, let's go to the Eagles offense and the approach to this game. First things first, you got to block Trey Hendrickson.
Whoa,
7 sacks, 3 games already this year with two sacks. Um, the dude is an absolute beast. I would actually go as far as to say he's one of the more underrated pass rushers in the league.
oh yeah.
He is really good, and you don't have Jordan Mailata, so you got to block that guy. I would expect some 12 personnel this week. Johnny Mack approach on offense coming into this game, and especially with blocking Trey
Yeah,
Hendrickson.
it's going to be interesting because, look, I think the Eagles would want to limit, as you mentioned, pass rushing opportunities without Jordan on the field. Um, and they were able to do that with the Giants and Brian Burns. But I think Cincinnati's going to score some points, so it's not going to be as easy as just say, all right, we're going to run it, run it, run it, run it, run it. And I don't think they're going to be up 21-3 in the fourth quarter and then 28-3 and close the game with 14 out of 15 runs. If they are great, I mean that things have gone perfectly. But I think Cincinnati's going to score some points, so that means Brett Johnson's going to have to hold up against Trey Hendrickson at times, and I don't like that matchup. And I just hope that the Eagles give him some help. Um, Whether, as you mentioned, it's chips or you know 2 tight ends on the field, because let's be honest, they're not getting the ball to Jahan Dotson anyway. So um, you might as well play Calcaterra and Stoll um, to help out Fred Johnson a little bit. Um, and I think that's how they should. But too often, man, the Eagles are used to having that luxury of leaving their tackles by themselves
I
and saying,
know.
"All right, we don't have to worry about those guys." Well, you do have to worry about Fred.
Yeah, I mean the good news this week is that the Bengals defense outside of Trey Hendrickson, it's not too good. It's not
No,
good
it
at
hasn't
all,
been good.
actually. So I mean, if the Eagles can game plan to take him out of it, you can kind of pick and choose your spots throughout the rest of the field and maybe find the
And that's
matchup
you
you
know
like.
that's part of it. The defensive front, especially, hasn't been great. Um, and the opposite edge rusher um, to Trey hasn't done much. Sam Hubbard, um, decent player in the past, hasn't played well this season. They have Joseph Asai who does some things. They have Miles Murphy who hasn't been good. People might remember him, but they have some they have some talent, but they haven't played that well. BJ Hill is a really good player, interior player though, and they have a really good defensive coordinator. He's gotten head coaching jobs, head coaching interviews. Lou Anamuro. Logan Wilson is he's a good player. He's one of those linebackers. I thought, hey, you know, Eagles, you might want to take a look at this guy. Um, and he's turned into a really good player. So I think they're better than they played. Their secondaries, they lost. At one point, they were very good, which the Jesse Bates era. But now and Geno Stone got hurt last week. Um, that's somebody to keep an eye on. If he's going to
I
be
think he had a
healthy,
pick last week, didn't he? Geno Stone? I thought he did.
he might have. I don't know, but he got hurt in the game, and it was pretty scary. But evidently, he's got a chance to play. But he hasn't played that well. He came from Baltimore. Dax Hill's a first round pick. It's been they moved him. He was a safety. They moved him to corner. He's been their corners aren't very good. So that's a good matchup for the Eagles, obviously. But people want them to run the ball. So I don't know.
Nah, I want a balanced approach. I do think this is the week that you're going to see a lot of air raid. I mean, who's going to cover AJ Brown for them?
Yeah, they shouldn't be able to cover Devontae. AJ. I mean, their corners aren't good. So, I mean, if I'm the Eagles, that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to take advantage of their corners.
Yeah, we'll see how the Birds approach this game. John, a couple super chats we'll get to before we get to Caden Steele. Any other thoughts on this game here as we preview the matchup? I do think it's it's a tougher matchup when you talk about going up against Joe Burrow. I think their defense is pretty soft outside of Trey Hendrickson, so maybe a good opportunity for Jalen Hurts to find some rhythm to build on what he's done the last 2 weeks of turnover-free football. And kind of get going. Any other takeaways that you have?
I got a little more.
Watching?
Like I said, I think Logan Wilson's a really good player. 3rd round pick, by the way, 2020. Eagles should have taken him. I think he's a really good player. I think BJ Hill's I think they got a little bit more on defense than you give them credit for, but the corners are the issue. And
Yeah,
I
and
don't
I
know
think
how
that's where I'm salivating, John, because who's going to cover AJ and Devontae?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you gotta want to throw it, number one, and then it complicates. Like if Jordan Mailata's out there, like I don't even blink. I say well, I'm taking advantage of those corners.
Yeah,
But now you got the added mixture of Brett Johnson against Trey Hendrickson, which I'm not, nearly as confident in, to put it mildly. So it's always tough, but that's the NFL. I mean, you're going to have matchups that are good in your favor, and you're going to have matchups that keep you up at night and say, well, how are we going to deal with this? And that's, the team that perseveres best is the team that's going to win. But I do think they have a little bit more on defense than I think maybe some people are giving them credit for.
yeah. I mean, maybe they do, and I think the secondary is really the big problem there. But I was looking at some stats, and these are credit to Elliott Shore Park, so shout out to him. He said 20, 26th in PPD, John. What is PPD? Points per drive?
Yeah, points per drive. Yeah.
25th on 3rd down, 27th in the
Yeah,
red
well, they
zone.
haven't played well.
Yeah,
But I think
25th in sacks and 28th in pass rush per PFF. So, I mean, they got
but
some
I
players, but yeah, they're not
yeah,
overall. They're not a great unit.
no. But they do have a very good coordinator. And I think same as here, I think they're going to get better as the year goes on. And they're getting better. Now, part of that is they played the same teams the Eagles have played over the past 2 weeks and taken advantage of it. So part of it is that. But same thing I say for the Eagles is, that breeds confidence, and all of a sudden you see guys kind of feeling themselves on the defensive side of the ball. Confidence is a big thing in the NFL because all these guys can play. And when you believe in yourself and you're playing confident and you got your mojo, like Nick said about the pass rush, all of a sudden things start clicking. Same thing's happening here with the Eagles. And, with a couple tweaks, Cooper DeJean, and some of the other tweaks aren't as I was writing about that yesterday. Basically, Nolan Smith is taken over in the base package, which is the 5-man front from Bryce Huff, and basically Moro Ojomo's taken over for Jordan Davis on third downs, which is may not be good long term for Howie Roseman, but it's helped the Eagles. And Vic doesn't give a what. So Lou's probably doing the same things, making those little tweaks along the way.
No doubt. Let's get to a couple super chats before we get to our guest, Caden Steele, coming up in about 10 minutes from now. Appreciate everybody in the chat right now. Hit that like button, and big shout out to Dream Green, who became a YouTube member. Thank you, sir, for becoming a member. Supporting the channel means a lot to me, and I appreciate that. One other person in the chat was asking how to become a member. I think if you want to become a member, the link is right in the description of the video at the very top. The iPhones, for some reason, Apple and Google, John, they don't get along. Apple makes it hard for you to become a member. So it'll open up like a browser in your iPhone if you're watching on your phone. But the link is right there in the description. So if you want to become a member, we appreciate that support as well. So Dream Green, big thanks to you, brother. He dropped a super chat as well. He says, why not trade for Miles, considering Sweat is probably gone after the season?
What? Well, hey, I'm sure everybody would want Myles Garrett. I mean, yeah, I don't.
John, if he's available, I'm sending the picks.
I'm not. I
Definitely.
don't. I refuse to believe Cleveland is trading Myles Garrett.
Yeah, I'm kind
I
of with
get
you
it.
on that.
I get it that they're having a bad season. Know Andrew Berry a little bit, their GM from being here. He's not a dumb guy. And then when you say just trade for Myles Garrett, well, prepared to back up, the Brinks truck, not only from a financial perspective, but from an asset perspective. If you do trade Myles Garrett, you're wanting a boatload in return in draft picks. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm betting against that one on Bet US. Everybody wants Myles Garrett.
Yeah. It's in season too, so I think there's going to be a lot. There would be a lot of bidders if he did become available. So we'll see what happens there. A lot of people looking for more edge help. Johnny Mac. Terry Hayes checks in. Big thanks to you, Terry. Terry says, "I'm saying the Birds win. This game's going to tell us a lot about this team. It's probably not likely, but I'm saying this now. Q is going to pick off Burrow." Terry, you're playing with fire on that prediction, my friend. He's got 2 picks this year, 3 turnover-worthy plays, and almost 250 dropbacks. He's not a he's not a turnover-prone quarterback, but I appreciate the super
Hey, you
chat.
never know. You
Comment.
never know. But, I know Quignon's working hard. He's had a bunch of opportunities and
I'll
wants to
tell you
get
what,
that
boy.
first interception.
I know IQ wasn't a receiver, John.
Yeah, he's played well. Slay's given him the college approach with the stripe on the football. You can see it better. Because remember, when these corners are turning their heads in coverage, the football's right there. So
Yeah, it's
you gotta recognize it, and it ain't easy. But no, I mean, look, if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting on Quinion picking off Joe Burrow. I might have bet on him picking up Daniel Jones, but
it's coming. One is coming. I will say that for Q. He's
even
been in the
more
right.
so Deshaun Watson. Yeah, it's coming at some point. And hey, Reed Blankenship intercepted Aaron Rodgers as an undrafted rookie. So you never say never. I'm just saying I don't like the odds.
One more super chat from Brian Fleming. Love it, Brian. Appreciate it, brother. He says, J-Mac, is Von Miller this year's Robert Quinn? I hope not.
Boy, well, I mean, I believe he's still suspended. He's suspended number one for the personal conduct policy. He got in trouble. So I don't know. It's 4-game suspension. I don't know if he's off it yet, but boy, how old is Vaughn? He's like 30, mid
That's
30s.
what I don't want. That's why I'm so
Yeah, he's
infatuated with the
35. He's 35 years old. I mean, first ballot Hall of Fame player. But again, I think, people assume that first ballot are in a stasis forever. I mean, he's not the same player. The Eagles, it's a little bit disappointing, their pass rush to this point, but they're getting their mojo back, as Nick said. I don't think it's as big a problem as other people do. And I don't want a 35-year-old guy.
No,
I
me
mean,
neither.
and if Bond's he can still play, but do you think you're a legitimate top, we're talking about tier 1 quarterbacks. Do you think right now you're a tier 1 Super Bowl team? That's when you make a move like that and say, all right, we're getting a guy for half a season, bring us home. Is he that player? Probably not. Are you that team? Probably not. I wouldn't go in that direction.
That is more of a Howie move, though, than the big ones.
Well, it's more of a people don't trade Myles Garrett, so it's
I
not like
know.
anybody's moves.
Yeah.
I mean, people like that aren't available unless they're so disgruntled they force their way out of a situation, which I've not seen from Myles. I don't even know where the Myles stuff is coming from, other than Cleveland stinks.
Yeah, that's it. I'm pretty sure that's the only spot it's coming from. Is that
Um,
Cleveland sucks and probably is looking
Everybody's
at,
taking the baseball mentality of, oh, they're going to sell. It's going to be a fire sale.
well, what are they
Um,
going to do? I mean, they're in purgatory with Deshaun Watson, dude.
Well, yeah, they got to fix that, and you don't fix that, by trading away your best player mid-season. At least leverage it. You don't get a chance to leverage. Yeah, I don't. Wouldn't be the first time I'm wrong, but I would be shocked if Myles Garrett gets traded.
Me too. We'll see what ends up happening there. Big thanks to all of our super chats today. Terry, Dream Green, Brian Fleming, and General JD. Good stuff from everybody. Good breakdown, John, of the Eagles-Bengals game. We'll get to a commercial break. We got Caden Steele coming up in about 3 minutes on Birds 365. So we'll get to our commercial break now and talk to Caden on the other side. Before I get to the commercial break, let me tell you guys about our great friends at BetUS. Check them out. I just added the graphic to the screen, and you can see the promo code to use, YouTube 150. It gives you a 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So go check out BetUS today. That's betus.com.pa. betus.com.pa. They're the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they will even give you your own custom account manager. So go check out BetUS today. We'll be back in 3 minutes on Birds 365 with Caden Steele.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.